Star Trek, The Next Generation, Starfleet Academy, Deceptions, Chapter 5. The next morning, Data accompanied Fantico to the communications hut, only to be told that the comm system still wasn't operating. Data offered to help with repairs, but Professor Tesh told him, "I'm afraid the problem isn't down here, it's up there," and he nodded towards the sky. "All diagnostics reveal that our comm satellite isn't properly aligned anymore. I can't figure out why." "So we get to wait 5 days until a ship comes," Fantico later reported to her team. "Great," groaned Lucas. "This couldn't happen to us on Pacifica or Risa or someplace nice. No, we get 5 extra days in no man's land." Fantico gave him a hearty pat on the back. "All the more time to live the life of an archaeologist. Put on your masks. Let's get to it, people." Zhu stayed close to Data on their way to the dig site. The Tanganese was completely unnerved by his assignment, and as he had taken to doing since they'd become friends, he took comfort in Data's presence. "Since I am free to study the dig in any manner I choose, would you like me to assist you in your tasks this morning?" Data offered. Zhu straightened up and gave his roommate a strange smile. "You be concerned for me. I be touched, Data, but no, I must do this myself. I be Starfleet now." Mimicking Fantico's earlier action, Data gave Zhu a hearty pat on the back. "If I could feel pride, Zhu, I am sure I would feel some now." As the cadets went to work, Data headed for the CD storage unit. After Tapira's mishap, he wanted to study the batteries. Plus, he was curious about working with the Dorendites. Never before had he met creatures so like and yet so unlike himself. He found 2 of the aliens, Pon Debek and Pon Sazid, seated outside the storage unit, cleaning CD with a variety of gentle cloths, brushes, and solvents. As Spinnaker had predicted, they accepted his presence. However, when he asked them questions about the CD, they gave only short replies. After several such replies, Pensazid said in her flat, tinny voice, "Refrain from further disruptions, cadet. We are working." So Data offered to help them with their work. Instead, they sent him off to get more cloths. Data obeyed, but when he returned with the cloths, they sent him off to get more solvents. He got those, but when he returned, they ordered him to go all the way back to camp and pick up a piece of equipment they'd forgotten to bring. Suspicious now, Data jogged to camp and located the equipment, something called a Tu-Katim, right where they said it would be. But when he got back to the storage unit, the door was locked, and the Dorendites were gone. Data stood there contemplating the locked door. He could inform Spinnaker about the Dorendites' lack of cooperation, but he should probably lodge a complaint with Fantico first. Then again, who was he to complain at all? He was a guest. They, on the other hand, had work to do. Perhaps Spinnaker was incorrect about Dorondite logic. Data might be a logical choice to help them, but not if they didn't want help in the first place. The android decided to check on Zhu. He found the Tanganese scrambling out of the deep pit of Section 7, covered in dirt and scowling. Offering a hand, Data easily lifted him up and out. "How are your efforts progressing, Zhu?" Washing his hands in a bucket of water, Zhu snapped, "My efforts be fine, I be fine. The Arunoan we just dug up be not fine." Data's eyes widened. "You found a body?" He leaned over and saw Dr. Ching and another workman huddled together, examining something small and white. "It's an incredible discovery," Dr. Ching said, trying to control her excitement. "There's almost a complete skull here." Zhu was still washing his hands. I have disturbed an ancient sleeper, he muttered. It be wrong. Now we be cursed. Data felt an idea spark in his positronic brain, and he knelt down next to his friend. Zhu, did you touch the bones? Zhu cringed. Yes. During contact, did you feel any impression that the ancient sleeper was angry at your intrusion? Zhu stopped scrubbing his hands. I felt nothing, he admitted. Might it not be possible, then, concluded Data reasonably, that an Arunuan, who had the ability to communicate emotions through objects while alive, might also have the ability to communicate anger after death through his own remains if he wished? And that if you felt nothing from those remains, that the Arunuan might therefore have no anger to express? Sitting back on his haunches, his hands dripping soap suds, Zhu thought about Data's words. Then he chuckled. You'll be a good friend, Data. Now it was the android's turn to get help. He explained to Zhu about the Durandite's behavior. Well, if the storage unit be locked, just ask Spinnaker for the key, suggested Zhu. I could do that, agreed Data, but it is clear that the Durandites do not wish me to participate in their work. Were I to open the lock, they might interpret the action as intrusive. The two walked over to Dolly's bar and grill, where they both took off their masks, and Zhu replicated a tall glass of Tanganese spiced water. After a long drink of it, he said, If the Durandites be a practical species, Data, perhaps they don't want your help because they don't consider you useful. But I have the ability to perform many useful tasks. Yes, but the Durandites don't know that. To them, you be just a first-year cadet. Data followed Zhu to one of the tables where they sat down. But how can I prove that I am useful if they will not allow me to do anything? Data asked. Well, what matters to them most? I would presume their work with the Tsiidi. Then find some way to help them with the Tsiidi. At a loss, Data could only repeat, But how? Then he remembered what was still in his hand, the Durandite's Kitum. He'd forgotten that he was holding it. Apparently, the instrument measured the energy contained in a Tsiidi, the psychic energy of pure emotion. Data had read about it in Spinnaker's files the night before. It was vital to the Durandite's work. The android's eyes darted to one side. What be you doing? Asked Zhu. Data finished his memory search. I have formed an idea based on your suggestion. You have been most helpful, Zhu. Thank you. With that, Data put his oxygen mask back on and left Dolly's bar and grill, heading straight for the equipment shed, or rather, Uncle Teddy's tool emporium. Go get a tricorder from Uncle Teddy's. He'd heard one of the archaeologists say earlier. All the basic equipment needed at the dig was stored there, and Data found exactly the tools he needed. He settled down at a workbench and began to take the two Katim apart. Dear Diary, the Durandite scientists have a device called a 2-ketum, which functions somewhat like a tricorder, except that it is specifically tuned to register emotions as a pure energy output. I have learned that the Durandite people invented these devices in order to interact with emotional species. It provides them with an indicator of what the other party is feeling, helping them gauge their responses for maximum benefit. The 2-ketum is allowing the scientists here on Arunu to catalog the emotional intensity of the Tsiidi artifacts in an attempt to understand their function in Arunu's society. If I can boost the device's sensing range, it will be more useful, not only for measuring Tsiidi energy output, but for locating more Tsiidi in other areas. If I am successful in this endeavor, Perhaps the Durandites will be impressed enough to allow me to participate in their work. Sincerely, Data. By late afternoon, Data had indeed modified the 2 Ketum. Now it could register emotional energy over a distance of 10 kilometers, over 400% of its previous capacity, and its sensitivity was enhanced by nearly 150%. At first, Data found Durandite technology to be something of a puzzle, but if there was one thing he had a knack for, it was machinery. He was satisfied with his tinkering and determined to show his creation to Professor Spinnaker, as well as to the Durandites. After all, it could possibly help the archaeologists locate more Arunu artifact sites, which would please Spinnaker and, in turn, benefit everyone. Before showing anybody what he'd done, however, Data wanted to test his new device. Zhu, fascinated with Data's ingenuity, accompanied him. They hiked several kilometers from the dig site to the foot of a range of hills, and there Data activated the 2 Ketum. It accurately pinpointed the presence of Tsidi at the dig storage unit, which it could not have done before at such a distance. It also identified the ornamental Tsidi located in Dolly's Bar and Grill, plus the small Tsidi that Spinnaker displayed in an antique fishbowl in his camp office. And then, in the opposite direction, far up in the barren hills, the 2 Ketum registered a huge concentration of Tsidi energy underground. Chapter 6. Did you get permission to alter this device? Data answered his team leader truthfully. No, sir. He stood in the middle of a ravine halfway between the dig and the camp. That's where he and Zhu had finally located Fantico, who'd been on her way to camp for dinner along with the rest of the cadet team. The workday was over, and everyone was filthy and tired. Now Fantico was angry as well. You surprised me, Mr. Data, she said sternly. You, of all people, should know better than to take what's not yours. But it was already in my hand, Data insisted. Besides, sir, it was the Durandites who left me. If I had been able to locate them, I would have requested permission to, as you put it, fiddle with the 2 Ketum. Fantico examined the palm-sized device. So you say you've improved this thing? I believe so, sir. And I also believe that there is another cache of Tsidi, or some kind of related artifacts, beneath those hills. The 2 Ketum's reading was quite strong. If Data is correct, we should inform Professor Spinnaker immediately, said Tapira. Lucas shook his head. And if Data's wrong, no offense, Data. None taken, Lucas. Then we'll all look like a bunch of losers. Maybe we should check it out first. Fantico considered all their comments. Well, I agree with Tapira. I must admit that I agree with Lucas as well. I'd like to confirm Data's reading before announcing anything. Data peered up into the cloudless gray murk of the Arunuan sky. The distant sun, a faint, blurry blob in the south, was starting to set. There will not be sufficient daylight remaining to complete the journey. Then we'll go first thing tomorrow morning. Fantico decided that they'd all go, since it might prove educational. After all, they were there to learn. The next morning before breakfast, Fantico asked Professor Spinnaker if they could borrow Arunu Annie for a quick trip. Why do you want to go away out in the boonies? He asked curiously. Data has made an observation, Fantico answered, trying to be specific and vague at the same time. We'd like to check it out before jumping to any conclusions. Spinnaker's eyebrows crawled high on his forehead as he regarded his android guest. I'll be interested to see what you're up to, Mr. Data. I, too, am rather curious, sir, Data replied honestly. That made Spinnaker grin. All right, go ahead. But don't take Annie. He led them to another hover car, this one with a bulkier metal body and a much bigger electrical engine. Let me introduce you to Bravo the Hover Bucket. Lucas snickered. Hey, I didn't name him, Spinnaker said, enjoying the cadet's amusement. Some of the folks here are a little... He twirled a finger near his ear. Face it, archaeology is a form of madness. It takes a balance of smarts and pure lunacy to intentionally isolate yourself from all known civilization and spend every waking hour mucking around in dirt for rocks and bones. Get me? Fantica nodded. Bravo will do fine, sir, thank you. Spinnaker dug into a pocket and handed her the vehicle's activation card. And be sure to talk nice to him. He runs better under encouragement. Giving them a wink, Spinnaker turned and headed back to his office. Data watched as Fantico tried to suppress laughter. She couldn't do it. What a unique individual. He's a loon, chuckled Lucas. At Fantico's sharp look, he added, "A nice loon, with authority over us. Sir." The cadets piled into Bravo the hover bucket. Data kept the Durandite Tuketum firmly in his hand as Bravo rose 2 feet above the ground and soared over the landscape, its powerful hover jets blowing up great clouds of dust. The jets made so much noise that 10 minutes later Data had to shout, "Here, sir!" and they arrived at the right spot. Fantico gently lowered Bravo to the ground. They were nearly 500 meters from the base of the hills, with the camp almost 4 kilometers to the south, hidden by the smaller hill that protected it from the nightly northern winds. Everybody piled out, and Data activated the Tuketum. Sure enough, it registered a large concentration of CD-like energy from deep beneath the hills. Following the signal, Data led the cadets closer until Tapira said, "Over there, sir." The entrance to the cave was tall, thin, and partially hidden by an outcropping of rock. It could easily have been mistaken for a shadow against the hillside, but Tapira's sharp eyes had picked it out. Data could see it now too, though the others had to move closer to make it out. "Mr. Data?" Fantico prompted, peering at the narrow opening. Data held the Tuketum toward it. "The source of the reading comes from this direction," he confirmed. Lucas and Tapira, who both had been issued tricorders, activated the instruments. "Sir, something is limiting tricorder function," Lucas reported. "I'm not getting any clear readings." "Confirmed," Tapira said. "There's some form of strong interference. I am unable to pinpoint its origin, but clearly the tricorders cannot penetrate it." Fantico hesitated for only a moment. "All right, people. We're just going in a few meters to see if there are ruins inside. Professor Spinnaker will want to know." The cadets nodded. Lucas fished around in Bravo's trunk and found 2 heavy-duty palm beacons. Fantico took one and told Lucas to keep the other. "You'll bring up the rear, Mr. Whitlock." Zhu and Tapira had no problem fitting through the cave's narrow opening, but Fantico, Lucas, and Data had to squeeze through inch by inch. Lucas scraped his head and shoulders when he got stuck and had to jerk himself through, and the back of Data's uniform tore when it caught on a sharp rock, but the cadets eventually made it inside. The passageway widened once they moved past the opening. Lucas and Fantico lit their palm beacons to reveal its steep downward slope. Automatically lowering her voice to a whisper in the gloom, Fantico said, "Let's see where this goes. Data, take point." She handed him her palm beacon. Taking the light, Data moved forward. For several minutes they walked in silence. The thin air grew cold as they descended, and the silence became so complete that Data thought he could actually hear the tiny internal hummings of his own systems. It wasn't his systems. It was voices, far ahead. He switched off his palm beacon and stopped. "Data, what?" Data waved his hand, cutting Fantico short. He peered into the darkness, untipped his head slightly, turning his oral receptors up as far as they could go. "I hear voices," he whispered, "and there is a light ahead." Lucas turned his beacon down to a soft glow. Data kept his turned off. Cautiously, the group crept forward until the others could see dim flickerings on the walls ahead. A few more steps and the passageway made a sharp turn to open onto a large cavern. Data pulled back, motioning the other cadets to stay hidden. Only Data had seen the 3 Durandites in the cavern, their tall white forms eerily lit by yellowish lantern light. The android didn't dare speak, or the Durandites might hear him. Instead, he slowly, silently turned his upper torso so that his companions could see his face. "Durandites," he mouthed as clearly as he could. Everybody's eyes bugged. "The carriers will load the cargo by hand," one of the Durandites said. At the sound of the voice so close and clear, the cadets automatically flattened themselves against the cave wall. "We cannot risk beaming. The dematerialization process might release the battery's energy. The Chemtic will therefore land in the northern mountains, undetected by the camp without the satellite sensors, and send a surface transport here. Sazid, you will bring 2 batteries here early tomorrow, while the others consume first foods." "Only 2?" said another voice. Pom de Bec, Data guessed. "We have so many." "More than that will be missed," said the first voice. It must have been that of Panchab. "The ruling house is content to have 2 batteries, and the smaller CD to study and make initial strike plans. We will provide them with more in the next shipment." "How will the ship make it here a second time undetected?" Pensazid asked. "We cannot disable the satellite again without causing suspicion." "That is my concern," was all Panchab said. Data glanced at his companions, who were exchanging mute stares of shock. The Durandites had disabled the archaeologist's satellite communications. Data's modified 2 Ketum had led them right into the middle of what appeared to be a smuggling operation. Fantico waved her hand, calling for attention. "Warren Spinnaker," she mouthed, and waved for them all to follow Lucas, who had already begun to retreat. Data, who had been first in line, now cautiously brought up the rear. "Might the Vulcan be useful?" Pensazid's query could still be heard as the cadets crept away. "She revealed this opportunity. Perhaps she can learn more for us." "She is a child," Panchab replied. "She only provided a demonstration of what we already suspected." "The android? He is a machine. His loyalty to Starfleet is no doubt programmed, making him useless for our purposes." There was a shuffling sound from the cavern, boxes being moved. Data concluded as he stepped carefully through the darkness. "These, however, will make the Federation loyal to us." Suddenly, Data heard a shuffling sound ahead of him. One of the cadets must have slipped. They all froze in terror as Pensazid's tinny voice snapped, "There was a noise." "Lucas, Tapira, run!" Fantico whispered urgently. "We'll cover you." Lucas and Tapira dashed away as Fantico ordered, "Data, Zhu, show them you're unarmed." Obediently, Data held out his empty hands and turned to face the Durandites, who rounded the far corner of the passageway and stared at the cadets with bland expressions. Apparently, Panchab didn't notice that Data was unarmed, or he didn't care. He calmly raised the disruptor. "Data, look out!" Fantico yelled, but there was nowhere to go. A blast of light filled the passageway, and Data felt a hot bolt of energy strike the middle of his chest. His limbs froze and he slammed to the ground, a high-pitched electronic squeal ripping through his circuits. Then everything went black.